let's see if we can see what's going on here. So this is the piece that I just glazed with the plum red. And you can see it's maybe a little on the thin side over here. Let's make sure we're focused. You can see that it's a little on the thin side over here. And then when I get to the side that I did 3 coats, you can see it's actually not dry on the inside, like inside those little texture pieces. And you can also see on that side, it's not dry on the inside yet. So that's probably good news that it's not drying, because it looks like I've got it on thick enough. It also means that on this side, I'm going to get a different effect, potentially, than over here on this side. I also left my foot entirely clean. Now this is a test tile, so I'm being a little sloppy, but if this were my piece that I really cared about, I might clean up a little bit down here. And I probably will get in there and just, in fact, I'll do that now. I'll just add a little bit of glaze to there. Now, as far as cleaning up this bottom, one of the approaches you could take is you could get in with a finer brush, and I'm kind of going to fake it here with this big clunky brush, but you could get in with your smaller brush, and you could add glaze until it's right at that line. Another thing you can do, what we often do with bisqueware, is we'll use a sponge to clean it up. Now, as you know, if you run a sponge along this bottom, you are potentially going to change what that bottom is like. But one of the things I sometimes do when I'm working with glaze, and I'm putting the glaze directly on work that hasn't been fired yet, is I'll get in and I'll scratch it off with a little, either a fettling knife or a, missed another spot, or a scoring tool, like not a scoring tool, a needle tool, so you can scratch a little of that off. Now I also want to let you see it close up so you can see what glazing looks like. Hopefully you can actually see into this thing. So I've got a different brush just so that I don't mess stuff up, and I'm going to do the ultramarine blue now. I shook that one up really well, and it seems like it's in good shape as far as thickness. So I'm going to make sure my brush is nice and saturated, and you won't have to do this while also looking at the camera, so that'll be an advantage. And I want to, as we're working on this, I want to remind you, this is not okay for you to consume before it's been fired. And I know who's going to be eating their class project, but I want you to know that if there are kiddos around you or animals, you don't want them licking this stuff up. So be aware of just where it is that you're working. My cat always loves, I have a jar of glaze water that I wash. She loves to stick her head in and drink the glaze water. Not a good idea, so I keep a lid on it in the studio. Or, a towel or something. So that was 2 coats. I'm going to go in and do a 3rd coat right there. And just make sure it's nice and covered. On a small piece like this, these upward brush strokes should probably be fine. On a larger piece, one of the things we sometimes do is we'll do cross brush strokes. Notice that if I don't keep going back for more glaze, I end up without enough on my brush, and I end up with those dry spots. So like I was saying, on a big piece, we might cross, go down, and go over like that. So again, I recommend you consider doing a thicker and a thinner side, but that's about how that's looking. I also want to let you see, because this cola green was looking kind of chunky, so I'm going to give it a good solid shake, hopefully not run into anything else. And I think that feels like it's not chunky anymore. I'm going to open it up over here and just make sure. Oh, yeah. It's looking fine. It's black, so you can't see anything. But that should be fine. I don't anticipate any of you having any trouble with your glazes because they've come pre-mixed. Make sure you get those lids on nice and tight when you're done, obviously. When you are done with your brushes, this stuff, I would recommend rinse it in like a cup of water first before running. Don't just run a bunch of glaze down the drain. You can also get as much of that glaze off before you're ready to clean them off in between. If you get some ultramarine blue in your plum red, or actually it's more of an issue if you get it in your ivory. If you get one of these glaze colors into another, they may contaminate each other. So if you use the same cola green brush and then you dip it in the ivory, your ivory may not be white anymore, or ivory, right? It may change it. However, you are totally welcome to mix glazes together. on the piece. So I'm gonna use this as an example. This piece I made yesterday, so it's still a little bit wet, which means the clay is wet, which means it's not gonna absorb nearly as well as the dry pieces. But I'm gonna paint a line of this glaze on here because I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do next to create a test tile that gives me some idea about combinations. I'm going to, once this dries, paint a line of ultramarine blue and then a line of ivory and the line of cola green over the top. If I get around to it, I will make, enough tiles that I'll make 4 different tiles with each of the 4 different colors underneath and then the others over the top. So we can see some of how they're gonna mix together. The glazes are designed, they're designed so that they can be used together. They fire to the same temperatures, but they will impact each other. So, and they don't work perfectly like mixing. If you take blue and you put white over the top of it, it may not come out like light blue. It may come out like white spots on blue or something like that. I haven't worked with these glazes yet, so we will learn together how they're going to turn out.